Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm talking about the new sequel to Joker called Joker Folie à Deux. Folie à Deux is basically a French term for two people who have shared madness in psychology. It's basically a psychology term over in France. But this is a sequel to Joker from 2019. That film made $1 billion, so of course Warner Brothers had to make another movie. Um, it does star Joaquin Phoenix again. Todd Phillips returns as director, and I want to say it even has the same screenwriters as the first film. But in this new film, though, we do find Arthur Fleck, Joaquin Phoenix. He is in Arkham Asylum, which is basically the prison establishment in the Batman universe. And he's, in this Arkham Asylum, and he is about to go on trial for those murders that he committed in the first film. So definitely make sure you see the first film before seeing this film because this very much is connected to those events from that first film. So going forward, just go into this film knowing that a lot of stuff from Joker 1 very much applies to what happens in this film. But anyway, he's about to go on trial. And before that happens, he falls in love with one of the female inmates in this Arkham Asylum, who's played by Lady Gaga. She's referred to as Lee, but she's essentially the Harley Quinn of this new Elseworld universe that the Joker films take place in. And so Harley Quinn and Arthur Fleck form this relationship, and it's very odd right away because there's a lot of things that she tells Arthur that later on his psychologists and people that help him in this trial claim that aren't true. Like she tells him about this rough childhood she has and how she didn't like her mother and all this other stuff. And while the trial's taking place and while Arthur gets informed by his attorney and his psychologist about all the stuff that really is going on with Harley, a lot of the stuff ends up not being true, and she has a completely different background and all this sort of stuff. It is kind of a recurring theme with her over the course of this film, is you really don't really know if what she's telling Arthur is the truth or not. But while the trial's going on, basically Arthur's defense to hopefully not be found guilty for the murders is his psychologist, played by Catherine Keener, goes the route of Arthur might be having these weird multiple personality disorders that outbursts when he's under pressure and when he's going through something that very much reminds him of his rough childhood that we learned about in the first Joker film. And so that's kind of the route they take with his trial. And while that's going on, and while Arthur's being more truthful since he's under oath in court, he also admits that Joker's kind of his way of being somebody that he can never see himself being. It's basically a personality that allows him to let him really speak out what he's really trying to say and do without him basically becoming something that isn't Arthur Fleck at all. And so that's kind of where Arthur stands on everything during the trial as well. And this also kind of harms his relationship with Harley Quinn. She really views him as this one and this complete person of that Joker is kind of Joker and Arthur Fleck are one and the same person, and so this harms their relationship. And over the course of this film, and after they have more encounters with each other with Harley and Joker, there's certain things that Arthur is doing that is kind of hurting his chance of falling in love with Harley Quinn the way that she wants him to. And he has to make the choice: is Joker really a persona he takes on when he's trying to get attention on something, or is Arthur Fleck been the same person all along, but Joker is kind of his opportunity to really say the things that he's trying to say to everybody, and that's what Harley thought he was the whole time, but now he's kind of coming out and saying that that's more just a persona that he takes on every once in a while. And so over the course of this film, we have to try to figure out what is Arthur Fleck, what is Joker, and what parts of him are one and the same person, but what parts of them are persona and what parts of them are the real person that we've been seeing over the course of two films now. But overall, guys, I thought Joker 2 was okay. I'm probably just going to call it that for the rest of the review because the Folie à Deux thing's kind of annoying to say. But yeah, Joker 2 was an okay experience to me. There's things about it that I enjoyed. There's things about it that I'm glad got a continuation from the first film. But there are a lot of things about it that are really could have been better. And there's a lot of things about it that I think are turning a lot of audience members off. And that's why this box office performance with this film is really not doing so well. So let's go over some positives and negatives as to why I feel this is the case with Joker 2, why it's an okay film that accomplishes some things, but it really needs some work in other areas too. So first and foremost for my positives, It does continue the character study elements in a really good way. It does continue the whole thing of, Arthur seeing psychologists, Arthur being honest with himself, Arthur acknowledging the idea that maybe he does have a multiple personality disorder, and that's caused by his rough childhood that we learned about in the first film. So a lot of that stuff I thought was very well handled. When it's not, there's something I'm going to cover later as far as another genre that they tackle in this film. When it's about the actual Joker story from the first film being continued, that's I think where the film really shines. It really is about who is Arthur Fleck, what is Joker, what does he remember from the night that Murray Franklin, the talk show host, got murdered. Like, what does he remember about it? What does he acknowledge about it? So when it continues that first story, I think that's where the film really shines the most. I also thought the depiction of Arkham Asylum was well handled here. It's dirty, it's grime. The inmates are not nice to each other. The food looks disgusting. The guards have, a no BS policy. They have no problem hitting you with their bats if you do something that really kind of irritates them. But there is a character played by Brendan Gleeson, who's one of the guards, who kind of not really forms a friendship with Arthur, but he's kind of somebody where he likes to see when Arthur kind of gets out of his bubble and is able to tell jokes again and stuff like that. And so there's parts of Arkham Asylum where it's like, okay, there's a little bit of humanity there. And I like when films, they're willing to take you to those dark places, but they also have a form of humanity to it. And I think that's something that Todd Phillips brought to Arkham Asylum that I really kind of admired about the film. And overall, too, I did think Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn was quite good. I also do kind of like her personality, where she wants to tell you things that she wish was happening, or there's things that will cause her to have the most attention on something. But there's things about her where later on in the film, it's like, no, that wasn't right about her at all. And I do like how she's kind of this deceiving person in nature, how she wants to have this romantic relationship with Arthur, but she also wants to have things about her that she wished she had about her childhood and about her past, so people could feel more sorry for her and stuff like that. And she also has a very dangerous side to her too. There's a scene that I won't get into too much detail on, that basically where she's not enjoying this film that's being screened to the inmates, and so how her and Arthur get out of there very much reflects the kind of the more dangerous side of her personality. So I like the way she played the character. She definitely keeps up with Joaquin Phoenix as far as being crazy is concerned. I don't know if I'm quite ready yet to label her as the better Harley Quinn over Margot Robbie. I don't know if I'm quite ready for that. But I think the way that she played Harley Quinn in this film in particular, I thought was well handled. And it really goes to show that both Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix are wonderful performers overall. I also like the addition of Steve Coogan, and I mentioned Brendan Gleeson earlier. Also, Catherine Keener plays the psychologist in this film. All three of them are truly wonderful. They're great new additions to the Joker story. Steve Coogan's actually one of my favorite films, Ruby Sparks, so it's always great seeing him showing up in something. He kind of plays this documentary interviewer that's trying to get more information out of Arthur as to why he did what he did. And of course, Catherine Keener is trying to be more acknowledging of what might be really going on with Arthur when he became Joker and all these personalities that he tries to maintain. And like I said, Brendan Gleeson is kind of the more humane guard out of all of them. He's really trying to see if he can bring back the better side of Arthur again while he's in Arkham Asylum. All of them are wonderful additions, and they're great new characters for the Joker universe to explore, I thought. And also, Joker's fantasy vision, quote unquote, from the first film is back, where certain things happen that he wished was going on, but they're really not happening. They're just kind of going on in his head. That's explored again. And I like how this film really just tried to maintain some of those elements we saw from that first Joker film. And for the most part, we do see a lot of those Joker 1 characters return here, specifically for the trials. Zazie Beetz, the neighbor from the first film, has a returning role in this film, and the way they utilize her I thought was very effective. Also, one of his clown performer friends that survived the events of the first film, he has a returning role here that's also very effective. So I thought the way that they had characters return from the first film and utilize them into the story again, I thought was also pretty effective. But for my negatives of Joker 2, unfortunately, like I was mentioning earlier, there is a subgenre they try to introduce here, and that's the musical genre. And it's very musical heavy at times. So going into the negatives, This film is almost too musical at times. There's too many musical numbers. There's too many times where the story takes a complete halt just for this musical number that doesn't mean anything at all. I really did not like that aspect of the film. I know a lot of people are really not going to be happy with that either. There's a couple musical numbers where it's like, okay, I guess that kind of adds into what's happening in the story here. But there's a lot of musical numbers too where I feel like they just throw it in there to throw it in there. And I feel like that's a really bad way to make a musical. A musical should further your story, tell your story in an interesting way, but it should never halt anything the way that Joker 2 likes to do it. Also, the film overall never really advances the overall Joker story. It does spend time more with the psychosis of Arthur Fleck, but for the most part, he's just behind bars for most of the movie. And besides all these, psychological evaluations of him, they really don't further the story very much. It really is just about this trial and about his time behind bars and finding love behind bars. And for me personally, I just thought that what wasn't enough, specifically at 2.5 hours where the film runtime lands. I feel like this is not enough to advance the overall Joker story into something special. And overall, I just thought more character study elements could have been used. That really is where the first film I thought shined for me and really was the film that it was. It was the character study. And I thought they really could have utilized that again some more for the sequel. And I won't get into spoilers, but let's just say the ending is unfortunately very unsatisfying. They really don't wrap up the story the way that you would like them to. They really don't close out Arthur Fleck's character the way that they probably should have. And I'll even kind of lead that into my next point. I thought the opening of the film, unfortunately, was very weird and unusual as well. So the way the film opens and the way the film closes, both were not very impressive to me at all. So I thought both aspects could have definitely benefited from a better rewrite, because for the most part, they just kind of left me feeling unsatisfied for the most part. And overall, this is just more politics within the studio system, but I do feel like more middle ground should have been found with director Todd Phillips and with Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers should have been more on him as far as, let's continue that character study stuff that we did from the first film. That's kind of what won Joaquin Phoenix an Oscar, and that's what, made the film $1 billion and so forth. And I really wish, it's fine if you want to add a couple of musical elements here and there, but to completely turn the film into a musical, I thought was a very bad creative choice on Todd Phillips' part. So I thought more middle ground should have been found as far as we're okay with you incorporating some musical elements to it, but it has to be a character study like we experienced in the first Joker film. And I think that's overall what would have made the film a better experience overall. But overall, I'm going to give Joker 2 a 7.5 out of 10. I think there's okay things about it. There's things that they continue from the first film that are pretty effective, but it is a very musical heavy film at times that really didn't need to be. It never really advances the overall story. There's more character study elements that could have been used. A better ending could have been made. And just a better way to open the film, too. I thought it was just very unusual. And like I said, overall, I think more middle ground should have been found between the studio and with director Todd Phillips. So 7.5 out of 10 for me. It's okay. If you like the first Joker film, I think it's worth checking out. There's just enough things here where if you like that first Joker film, I think you're going to be happy with some of the stuff they explore. But for the most part, I can't rush you out to the theater to go see it. There's just not enough great things about it either where I could, you have to go see it or anything like that. So 7.5 out of 10 for me. It's okay. If you like the first Joker, I think it's worth checking out. Just go into this film knowing that it's not perfect and that there are some really bizarre creative choices with it. So 7.5 out of 10 for me. Joker 2 is an okay film.